The rain-slicked streets of Seville gleamed under the street lamps like shattered glass. And that's when Brianna shoved open the door of the cramped tapas bar, her soaked leather jacket dripping onto the terracotta floor. "I can't do this anymore, Elena. Your lies are drowning us both," she spat, her voice cracking like thunder over the Sierra Nevada. In that instant, as the entire room fell silent and Elena's wine glass slipped from her trembling fingers, shattering into 1,000 crimson shards, Brianna realized the temporary vow they'd whispered in a notary's office 6 months ago had carved itself into her soul, unbreakable and bleeding. Elena Vargas had always chased the horizon, ever since she was a kid kicking around dusty soccer balls in the sun-baked alleys of Córdoba. Born to a family of olive farmers whose groves stretched like green veins across the Andalusian hills, she dreamed bigger than the Sierras that hemmed her in. At 22, fresh out of the University of Granada with a degree in international relations, she'd packed a single duffel bag and boarded a flight to New York City, chasing the neon pulse of a life unbound by the weight of expectation. America was her promised land, chaotic, electric, a place where a girl like her, with her sharp wit and sharper ambitions, could rewrite her story. But visas are fickle lovers, granting ecstasy one day and exile the next. Elena's student visa expired like a bad dream, just as she was on the cusp of landing a junior analyst gig at a boutique consulting firm in Manhattan. Panic set in, the kind that gnaws at your bones. That's when she met Brianna Hayes at a dimly lit queer bar in the East Village, the kind of place where the air smelled of spilled gin and unspoken heartaches. Brianna was everything Elena wasn't. Rooted steady, with roots tangled deep in the Rust Belt soil of Pittsburgh. 31, a graphic designer who'd clawed her way from freelance gigs to a solid remote contract with a Seattle tech startup. Brianna had the kind of laugh that could disarm a room. Low and throaty, like aged bourbon. They bonded over cheap tequila shots and shared stories of displacement. Elena confessed her visa woes first, her dark eyes flashing with that mix of fire and fear that made her irresistible. "I need a green card or I'm shipped back to Spain like yesterday's luggage," she said, swirling the salt rim of her glass. Brianna, nursing her own quiet ache, a recent breakup with a woman who'd ghosted her after 5 years, leaned in, her freckled cheeks flushed. "What if we, made it official? Temporary. Just on paper. You get your papers, I get a tax write-off for the spouse abroad or whatever. No strings." It was madness born of desperation and the hazy camaraderie of strangers on the edge. But Elena, ever the pragmatist, saw the poetry in it. "A pact," she murmured, clinking her glass to Brianna's. "Temporary as a siesta. We sign, you sponsor me, I visit enough to make it look real. Then poof. Divorce papers and back to our lives." Brianna nodded, her green eyes locking onto Elena's with an intensity that should have been a warning. They laughed it off, sealing the deal with a mock vow under the bar's flickering neon sign. Till the ink dries and the judge yawns. 6 months later, the paperwork was done. Elena touched down in Seville for what was supposed to be a honeymoon visit to appease the immigration gods. 2 weeks of staged photos in front of the Alcazar, hands intertwined for the camera but fingers itching to pull away. Brianna flew in from Pittsburgh, her first time in Europe, wide-eyed at the labyrinthine streets and the way the air hummed with flamenco guitars even at dawn. They rented a tiny apartment in the Triana neighborhood, overlooking the Guadalquivir River, its walls papered in faded bullfight posters and shelves groaning under Elena's collection of dog-eared Lorca poetry. From the start, it was a performance laced with peril. Brianna would wake to the scent of Elena's café con leche brewing on the stove, the steam curling like secrets unspoken. They'd wander the markets, haggling over spices and manchego cheese, Brianna's Midwestern politeness clashing hilariously with Elena's fiery bartering. "You're too soft, mi amor," Elena teased one afternoon, her arm looped through Brianna's as they strolled past horse-drawn carriages in Plaza de España. "In Spain you fight for what you want." Brianna shot back. "In America we negotiate. But damn, your fire's contagious." Nights blurred into something dangerously real. After a bottle of Rioja shared on their balcony, Elena pulled out her guitar, an old classical thing with strings worn from years of strumming under olive trees. She played a haunting rendition of La Llorona, her voice raw and velvety, weaving tales of lost loves and river ghosts. Brianna sat transfixed, the city lights reflecting in her eyes like distant stars. "You're not just beautiful," Brianna whispered when the last note faded. "You're a storm wrapped in silk." Elena's laugh was a deflection, but her hand lingered on Brianna's knee, the touch electric. They kept the Pact's boundaries blurred but intact. No kisses beyond the perfunctory pecks for photos, no shared beds. Yet the tension built like thunderheads over the Sierra Morena. Brianna found herself tracing the curve of Elena's jaw when she thought no one watched, memorizing the way her black hair fell like a midnight cascade. Elena, for her part, caught herself lingering over Brianna's sketches, bold, colorful designs that captured Seville's soul in ways her own words never could. "You see me," Elena said one evening, flipping through Brianna's notebook. "Not the visa girl, not the expat. Just me." Brianna's heart stuttered. "That's the problem. I see too much." The first crack appeared on their 10th day. During a trip to Ronda, the mountain town perched on a gorge that plunged like a lover's betrayal. They hiked the edges, wind whipping their scarves, the Puente Nuevo arching defiantly over the abyss. Elena, ever the adventurer, dared Brianna closer to the railing. "Feel that? That's freedom." Staring down the drop and choosing to step back. Brianna gripped the stone, her knuckles white. "Or choosing to jump together." The words hung, heavy as the mist rising from the river below. That night, back in Seville, Elena's phone buzzed incessantly. She silenced it, but not before Brianna glimpsed the name Sofia. An old flame from Granada days, texting invitations to a poetry reading. Guilt gnawed at Brianna like termites in old wood. This was temporary, she reminded herself, a favor for a friend. But as Elena's laughter filled their apartment, echoing off the tiled floors, Brianna wondered if favors could fracture hearts. She started sketching Elena in secret, her profile against the Giralda Tower, eyes alight with the Feria's fireworks, not as a wife on paper, but as a woman who could unravel her. By week's end, the photos were uploaded, the immigration checklist ticked. Brianna's flight loomed, a guillotine blade. They stood at the airport in Malaga, the sea crashing indifferently beyond the glass walls. "Safe travels, partner in crime," Elena said, pulling her into a hug that lasted a beat too long. Brianna inhaled the scent of jasmine and salt on her skin. "This pact. It's holding more than we bargained for." Elena pulled back, her smile a mask. "Temporary, remember? Like a dream you wake from." But as Brianna boarded, the word tasted like ash. Months stretched into a fragile normalcy. Brianna buried herself in work, her Pittsburgh apartment a cocoon of takeout containers and half-finished canvases. Elena's emails arrived like postcards from another life. Updates on her new job at a Seville NGO, photos of protests for migrant rights, always signed "Your Temporary Tether." Brianna replied with sketches of imagined futures. The two of them on a Brooklyn rooftop, or Elena's groves blooming under American skies. The distance bred longing, the kind that simmers slow and deep. Then came the call, 3 months post-return, on a gray Pittsburgh November. Elena's voice was a wire, taut and trembling. "I need you here. Now. The pact, it's complicated." Brianna's pulse thundered. Complicated how? Visa issues? A slip in the charade? She booked the first flight, her mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. Seville welcomed her with balmy winds and the tang of orange blossoms, but Elena at the arrival's gate was a shadow thinner, eyes hollowed by secrets. Over churros and thick hot chocolate at a Triana cafe, the truth spilled. Elena was pregnant. Not by some abstract lover, but by Sofia, the woman from the phone, the one who'd reignited old flames during Brianna's absence. "It was a mistake," Elena whispered, tears salting her cup. "One night, after too much wine and too many regrets. But the baby's real, Brie. Due in 7 months. And now, immigration's sniffing around. They think our marriage is a sham because I didn't mention this." Brianna's world tilted. Betrayal stung like lemon on a cut, but beneath it, a fiercer ache. Loss for the almost love they danced around. "Our pact was temporary," she echoed, voice steady as rebar. "But this? This changes everything." Elena reached across the table, her fingers cool against Brianna's. "Stay. Help me figure it out. For the baby. For us." The word was a lifeline, frayed but flung. Brianna stayed, extending her remote work visa, turning the apartment into a makeshift nursery with second-hand cribs and walls painted in soft ochre. Mornings blurred into a rhythm. Brianna at her drafting table by the window, Elena napping on the couch, her belly a gentle swell under loose tunics. They talked for hours about Elena's fears of motherhood in a country that deported dreamers, about Brianna's own buried longing for family, aborted by exes who fled commitment like bad debts. "I never thought I'd want this," Brianna admitted one dawn, hand splayed over Elena's bump, feeling the flutter within. "A kid. A life that's not just sketches and solitude." Elena's smile was soft, shadowed. "Me neither. But you're steady, Brie. Like the bridge over the gorge. You don't waver." Yet fissures ran deep. Sophia appeared like a specter at a neighborhood market, all golden curls and easy charm, offering olive oil from her family's press as if it could anoint the mess. "I'm here for the baby," she told Elena, ignoring Brianna's glare. "We were something once. Let me be something now." Elena wavered, her heart a divided map, and Brianna felt the Pact's fragility anew. Temporary vows crumbling under the weight of real blood and bone. Winter cloaked Seville in a rare chill, the Guadalquivir misting like breath on glass. As Brianna paced the apartment's narrow balcony, her coat pulled tight against the damp. Sophia's visits had become ritual, twice weekly, bearing baskets of figs and almond cakes, her laughter a barb in the quiet. Elena insisted it was for the baby, a co-parenting olive branch, but Brianna saw the pull. The way Elena's eyes softened at Sophia's stories of Granada summers, the shared language of old wounds. "She's the past," Elena promised one evening, curling into Brianna on the couch, the baby's kicks a Morse code between them. "You're the now." But now felt like borrowed time, the Pact ink smudging under rain. Brianna threw herself into the role of reluctant guardian, attending prenatal classes in a community center thick with the scent of sage tea and worry. There, amid a circle of glowing mothers-to-be, she learned the swell and sigh of breathwork, the anatomy of hope. Elena bloomed under the attention, her skin radiant, but shadows lingered in her silences. Nights, when sleep evaded, she'd trace constellations on Brianna's palm. "What if I'm not enough?" she'd whisper. "For her. For anyone." Brianna would pull her close, murmuring, "You're a force, Elena. Hurricanes envy you." It was truth wrapped in tenderness, but the words couldn't staunch the doubt. The betrayal crystallized on a February afternoon, raw as the wind off the Atlantic. Brianna returned early from a client call, arms laden with fresh pan con tomate from the bakery. The apartment door creaked open to murmurs, Sophia's voice low and coaxing, Elena's a murmur of assent. Brianna froze in the hallway, heart hammering like a flamenco drum. Peering through the cracked bedroom door, she saw them. Elena seated on the bed, Sophia kneeling before her, hands framing her belly in a gesture too intimate, too claiming. Their foreheads touched, a private communion, and Sophia's lips brushed Elena's temple. Not a kiss, but close enough to scar. The basket slipped from Brianna's arms, tomatoes splattering like accusations. Elena jolted, eyes wide with the deer's flash of guilt. "Brie, it's not." Sophia rose smoothly, her smile a velvet glove over steel. "We were just talking. About arrangements." Brianna's laugh was bitter, echoing off the walls. "Arrangements? Like the ones we made. Temporary, right? Until someone better shows up with a family tree." She stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine, leaving Elena's pleas swallowed by the stairwell. She wandered Triana's labyrinth until dusk, the river a black ribbon reflecting fractured lights. Betrayal wasn't the act, it was the erasure. The way Sophia's presence rewrote their fragile script, turning Brianna from partner to prop. She ended up at a quiet bodega, nursing a glass of Fino sherry, the dry bite mirroring her throat. An old woman at the bar, wrinkled as parchment, nodded sagely. "Amor es como el aceite, se filtra por todas partes, pero mancha lo que toca." "Love's like oil," she said. "It seeps everywhere but stains what it touches." Elena found her at midnight, rain-slicked and shivering under the bodega's awning. "I sent her away," she said, voice raw. "For good this time." Brianna met her gaze, the sherry's haze sharpening the pain. "Why her, Elena? After everything, the forms, the flights, the nights we almost." Elena's tears mingled with the rain. "Because she was safe. Familiar. You scare me, Brie. You make me want forever, and forever's a luxury I can't afford. Not with a baby. Not with my life in pieces." They walked back in silence, the city a conspirator in their ache. In the apartment stripped of pretense, Elena confessed the full weight. Sophia had proposed co-parenting abroad, a life in Granada where traditions held like mortar. She offers roots, Elena said, folding tiny onesies with hands that shook. You offer wings. And I'm terrified of falling. Brianna knelt before her, echoing Sophia's pose but infusing it with her own quiet fire. Then fall with me. Not because of a pact but because we choose it. Spring unfurled in Seville like a lover's promise. Azahar blossoms perfuming the air, patios bursting with geraniums. Brianna and Elena rebuilt, brick by tentative brick. Prenatal yoga became their sanctuary, bodies entwined in downward dogs and warrior poses, breath sinking like unspoken vows. Brianna designed a logo for Elena's NGO. A stylized olive branch cradling a globe, symbolizing roots that reached without binding. It's us, Brianna said, unveiling it over paella on the balcony. Grounded but growing. Yet conflict simmered, immigration's shadow lengthening. A letter arrived in April, crisp and officious. Questions about the marriage's authenticity, flagged by Elena's pregnancy records. Irregularities noted. It read, demanding proof of cohabitation, joint finances. Panic clawed at Elena's chest. Deportation loomed like a storm front. If they send me back, the baby. She trailed off, hand protective over her swell. Brianna paced, mind racing through loopholes. We fight it. Together. Affidavits, photos, hell, I'll testify to every stolen glance. They hired a lawyer in Madrid. A no-nonsense woman named Carla with a mane of silver hair and a penchant for quoting Garcia Lorca. To burn with desire and keep quiet about it is the greatest punishment we can bring on ourselves. Consultations dragged through May. Each video call a gauntlet of hypotheticals. Brianna documented their life in meticulous detail. Grocery receipts in both names, ultrasound printouts with affectionate notes scrawled in the margins. Elena, meanwhile, grappled with her body's betrayal, the kicks growing insistent, a reminder of choices that echoed. Sophia's ghost lingered, manifesting in Elena's dreams and Brianna's doubts. One humid night, after a particularly brutal hearing where the lawyer warned of precedent for fraud, Elena broke. I can't do this to you, she sobbed into Brianna's shoulder. You're chained to my mess, a baby that's not yours, a marriage that's half lie. Brianna held her fiercer, the scent of sweat and salt mingling. Yours isn't a mess, it's a map. And I'm not chained. I'm choosing the path. Their lips met then, tentative as spring rain, deepening into a kiss that tasted of relief and revelation. No pact bound them now. This was consent, raw and real. June swelled Elena to fullness, the baby a summer storm within. They escaped to the Costa de la Luz for a baby moon, renting a whitewashed cottage in Zahara de los Aitons, where the Atlantic whispered secrets to the shore. Days blurred into lazy idles, Brianna sketching seashells while Elena read aloud from The House of Bernarda Alba, her voice weaving tragedy and triumph. Evenings they walked the beach at twilight, bare feet in foam, hands clasped against the pull of tides. I love you, Elena said one night, the words slipping free like a wave's crest. Brianna stopped, sea spray beating her lashes. Say it again. I love you, Elena repeated fiercer. Not temporary. Not pact-bound. Just love. But love, in its American pragmatism laced with Spanish passion, demanded proof. Back in Seville, the immigration verdict landed like a verdict from the gods. Conditional approval, pending a final interview. Prove the union's bona fide, the letter demanded. Brianna's resolve hardened. She proposed they make it real, not just on paper but in vows renewed. Marry me for real, Elena. Not for visas but for us. For her. Elena's eyes shimmered, fear and fire at war. And the baby? Sophia's claim. Brianna cupped her face. Ours to raise if you'll have me. A family messy and mine. The ceremony was simple, held in a civil office overlooking the metropole parasol, that alien honeycomb shading their signatures. No guests, just Carla as witness, her grin wolfish. They exchanged rings, plain gold bands etched with olive leaves, and vows whispered in Spanglish. In sickness and siestas, in green cards and groves, I choose you. Laughter bubbled through tears, the pact alchemized into promise. Yet as summer peaked, Elena's body rebelled. Braxton Hicks' contractions mimicked the real thing. sending them to Hospital Virgen del Rocío in false alarms that frayed nerves. Brianna became sentinel, packing hospital bags with a mother's vigilance, though biology denied her the swell. "You're already her mother," Elena murmured during one midnight vigil, for drip beeping softly. Brianna kissed her knuckles. "And you're mine." The true storm brewed in August, Sophia reappearing like monsoon rain. Unbidden, unyielding. She cornered Elena at the NGO office, eyes blazing with entitlement. "You can't erase me. The baby's half mine." Elena stood firm, hand on belly. "Half yours but all ours now. I choose Brianna." Sophia's retort was venom. Anonymous tips to immigration, whispers of fraud seeded like weeds. The fallout hit days later. A raid, officers at their door demanding documents, Elena's sobs echoing as they rifled drawers. Brianna's fury ignited, a Pittsburgh steel fire. She lawyered up fiercer, gathering allies from Elena's NGO network, activists who marched for love's borders. The climax crested in a hearing room in Madrid, air thick as courtroom incense. Sophia testified, her words a scalpel. It was convenience, nothing more. Brianna took the stand, voice steady as Guadalquivir currents. Convenience doesn't build nurseries at dawn, doesn't hold you through nightmares. That's love, messy, migratory, but ours. Elena followed, her testimony a poem of redemption. "I betrayed her once with fear. But love? That's the visa that lasts." The judge's gavel fell like grace. Approval granted, family intact. But victory tasted bittersweet. Sophia's shadow scarred. A reminder that trust rebuilds slow. Autumn gilded Seville in amber and rust. The leaves of Plaza de America's palms whispering of change as Elena's due date circled like a hawk. The apartment thrummed with preparation. Diapers stacked like cordwood. A mobile of paper cranes Brianna had folded from client sketches dangling over the crib. Yet beneath the domestic hum, tension coiled. Elena's body, heavy with promise, ached with doubt. "What if I'm like my mother?" she confided one crisp morning, folding onesies while rain pattered the window. Bound to the land, resenting the ties. Her own madre, a widow tethered to Cordoba's groves, had raised Elena with love leavened by lament. Stories of a father lost to Franco's echoes, dreams deferred to dirt. Brianna listened, her hands stilling on a half-sketched mural for the nursery. Whimsical olive trees bearing stars. "You're not her," she said gently, drawing Elena onto the couch. "You're you, wanderer warrior. And we'll wander together." But Brianna's own ghost stirred. Pittsburgh calls from her sister, urging return for holidays, painted her as the prodigal, untethered by blood. "They think I'm playing house," she admitted later, over gazpacho chilled with yesterday's worry. "But this? It's the realest thing I've touched." The betrayal's aftershocks rippled into smaller fractures. Sophia, exiled but unbowed, sent letters, velvet threats veiled as concern, offering support that reeked of strings. Elena burned them in the sink, flames dancing like accusations, but embers lingered in her dreams. One night she woke screaming, convinced the baby was slipping away. Brianna held her through the sobs, rocking like a lullaby. "You're safe. We're safe." Dawn brought resolve. They drove to Cordoba, Elena's ancestral soil, to confront the roots. The groves unfolded like memory. Gnarled trunks silvered by mist, the air thick with earth and eternity. Elena's mother, Isabel, greeted them at the finca, her face a map of wrinkles and resilience, eyes sharpening on Brianna's ring. "So the American," she said, not unkindly, pouring manzanilla wine under a pergola heavy with grapes. Over plates of salmorejo and shared silences, truth surfaced. Isabel's own loves lost to convention, a sister soul buried in propriety. "I wanted more for you, Mija," she told Elena, hand on her belly. "Wings, not weights." Elena wept then, the baby kicking in solidarity. Brianna, outsider no more, sketched the scene. 3 women bound by blood and choice, olives gleaming like dark pearls. Return to Seville fortified them, but labor's prelude was merciless. False starts plagued September. Elena timing contractions over churros, only for them to fade like mirages. Brianna's patience frayed at the edges, her remote work suffering as deadlines loomed. A client email, curt, questioning her distraction, pushed her to the brink. "Am I enough?" she asked Elena one evening, voice small as the space between heartbeats. "Or am I just the visa savior?" The steady hand till the storm passes? Elena pulled her close, lips brushing her temple. You're the anchor, Bree. The one I sail for. October arrived with ferocity, the baby crowning on All Saints' Eve, as if timed for resurrection. Pains gripped Elena at midnight, a vice of fire and flood. Brianna drove through rain-lashed streets to the hospital, one hand on the wheel, the other clutching Elena's as she panted mantras. Breathe with the river, amour. Flow, don't fight. The air blurred into urgency. Monitors beeping, nurses in blue whirlwinds, Elena's cries echoing off sterile walls like flamenco wails. Hours stretched into eternity. Brianna, barred from the delivery room by protocol's cold decree, paced the corridor, her world reduced to vending machine coffee and prayers to God she'd half forgotten. Sophia's shadow flickered in her mind, not as rival but as echo. What claim did she hold here? The paper wife turned flesh and bone partner? A midwife emerged at dawn, face alight. She's asking for you. Now. The room was a cocoon of sweat and steel. Elena's face ashen but fierce, hair matted like a warrior's helm. Bree, she gasped, reaching. Brianna clasped her hand, the other stroking damp curls. I'm here. We're here. Contractions crested like waves on Zahara's shore. Elena pushing with primal roar. Brianna's voice her tether. You're strong. So strong. The doctor's gloved hands guided, and then, a cry sharp as new life slicing the air. Isabella Sophia Hayes Vargas entered the world at 6:47 a.m. October 31st, slick and squalling. Her tiny fists flailing like olive branches in gale. Elena collapsed back, exhausted bloom. Tears carving rivers down her cheeks. The midwife placed the bundle on her chest, skin to skin, and Brianna leaned in, awed silence breaking into whisper. She's perfect. Like her mother. Elena's laugh was ragged joy. Our mother. But the idol shattered swift as it came. As nurses bustled, Elena's vitals dipped. Hemorrhage, the word a thunderclap. Alarms wailed, hands pulled Brianna back. Elena's eyes locking on hers in wordless plea. Don't leave. Chaos engulfed. Transfusions, surgeons in masks, Brianna relegated to waiting room purgatory. Isabella swaddled in a bassinet nearby. Time fractured, minutes or hours. Until a doctor emerged, scrub-stained but smile intact. She's stable. Lost blood, but she's a fighter. Brianna gathered Elena's hand anew. The room settling into hushed reverence. Isabella nursed, tiny mouth working with determination, while Elena dozed, for lines a temporary truce. Brianna sat vigil, sketching the tableau in her mind. Mother and daughter, a pact fulfilled beyond words. Yet as afternoon light slanted through blinds, Sophia arrived. Uninvited, summoned by some bureaucratic slip, her face a mask of entitlement. I have rights, she declared in the hallway, voice slicing quiet. Brianna rose, lioness low. Rights? You forfeited them when you chose shadows over substance. The confrontation spilled into the corridor, nurses shushing like scandalized ants. Sophia's eyes blazed. You think a ring makes you family? She's mine by blood. Brianna's retort was steel-wrapped calm. Blood's just the start. Family's the showing up, the holding through hemorrhage, the vowing in courtrooms. Where were you then? Sophia faltered, the fight leaching from her like tide. I thought I could be enough. Brianna softened just a fraction. You were once. But Elena chose growth. Let her. Sophia left with a nod, a ghost banished by grace. Elena woke to the tale, her grip on Brianna's hand fierce. You fought for us. Brianna kissed her forehead. Always will. Discharge brought them home to Triana. The apartment transformed into haven. Casseroles from neighbors, mobiles twinkling. Isabella's cries punctuated nights like flamenco claps, but sleep came in stolen snatches, laced with wonder. Brianna took to motherhood like she'd taken to Spain, fierce, adaptive, changing diapers with the precision of her designs, rocking colic away with hummed renditions of Bohemian Rhapsody, mashed with Volare. Elena watched, healing slow, her strength returning in layers. First steps unaided, then NGO meetings from the couch, laptop balanced on nursing pillow. Yet postpartum shadows crept. Elena's hormones a riptide pulling her under. I feel adrift, she confessed one foggy dawn, Isabella fussing at her breast. Like the Groves called me back, but I can't go. Brianna brewed chamomile, sat cross-legged on the floor. Then we plant new ones. Here. A life that's ours, not echoes. They talked of futures, Brianna's work shifting fully remote, Elena eyeing a Seville-based advocacy role. Isabella's baptism planned for spring, a bridge of rituals. Catholic echoes for Isabel, queer blessings for them. November's chill deepened, Thanksgiving a hybrid affair. Pittsburgh kin via Zoom toasting turkey with tortilla española. Brianna's sister cooing over Isabella's pixelated gurgles. Bring her home soon, she urged. Brianna glanced at Elena, dozing with babe in arms. This is home now. But conflict's embers glowed. Immigration's final stamp arrived. A green card, Elena's ticket to permanence. Celebration dinner at a riverside taberna turned confessional. Elena admitting the terror of roots. Brianna voicing her fear of fading into supporter, not equal. I want to carry too, Brianna said, voice thick. Not just hold. Elena's eyes cleared. Then let's. Adoption, fostering, whatever calls. The pact evolved, no longer temporary but tapestry. Winter solstice brought fever to Isabella. A croupy bark that sent them racing to the R again. Brianna's arms a cradle through nebulizer mists. Elena's panic mirrored her own labor fears. But they emerged unscathed, fortified. New Year's Eve, under fireworks blooming over the Giralda, they danced in the plaza. Isabella strapped to Brianna's chest, Elena's head on her shoulder. To us, Elena toasted with Sidra. The family we forged. Yet the deepest drama brewed in silence. Brianna's sketchbook, filled now with visions of expansion. A second child, perhaps carried by her through science's grace. She showed Elena on Epiphany, the Three Kings parade echoing outside. Dream with me. Elena traced the lines, tears pricking. Always. Spring 2026 dawned in Seville like redemption. Wisteria draping the patios, the ferias casetas pulsing with laughter and lutes. Isabella, at 5 months, was a revelation. Chubby-cheeked cherub with Elena's dark curls and Brianna's green gaze. Her babbles a bilingual symphony of mama and mommy. Motherhood had sculpted them anew. Elena's curves softened to strength, Brianna's edges honed by vigilance. The apartment, once a stage for pretense, now hummed with authenticity. Walls alive with Isabella's finger paint smudges, shelves bowed under board books and baby slings. Yet the Pact's ghost lingered, demanding reckoning. Sophia's silence broke in April, a letter delivered by courier. Contrition inked on linen paper, enclosing a trust fund seed for Isabella's future. I release my claim, it read. Love her from afar as I couldn't near. Elena read it aloud over cafe, voice steady. It's over. Brianna nodded, but inside, forgiveness warred with wariness. A humanistic truce, hard one. Brianna's career crested that season. Her designs, infused with Andalusian soul, caught a New York agency's eye. Offers flooded. Relocation packages to Brooklyn, 6-figure salaries. The email arrived during Isabella's nap, Elena napping beside her. Brianna stared at the screen, heart a fault line. America called. Pittsburgh steel skies, her sister's embrace. But Spain held the horizon they'd claimed. She printed the offer, slipped it into Elena's poetry stack. Dinner that night, over espinacas con garbanzos, Elena unfolded it. Go if you must, she said, eyes searching. But take us. The decision crystallized on a May pilgrimage to Ronda, Isabella gurgling in her carrier as they retraced that early hike. The gorge yawned, eternal, but now it whispered invitation, not threat. At the Puente Nuevo, Brianna knelt, rings glinting. We started here, temporary as wind. But I'm all in, New York or here with you both. Elena's kiss was salt and certainty. Here. Our bridge. Summer swelled with milestones. Isabella's first steps across Triana's cobblestones, wobbly as new vows, Brianna catching her mid-tumble. Elena's NGO launched a campaign, Amor Sin Fronteras, advocating for queer migrant families, Brianna's graphics its vibrant spine. Protests marched through Seville's veins, banners fluttering like prayers, Isabella hoisted on shoulders amid chants. This is legacy, Elena said post-march, sweat-sheened and sublime. Brianna pulled her close amid the dispersing crowd. Ours. But climax shadowed idle. Elena's health faltered, a postpartum echo. Anemia sapping her fire, forcing bedrest under Isabel's watchful eye. Brianna juggled solo, Work calls with one hand, bottle feeds with the other. Exhaustion etching lines around her eyes. Doubt crept. Was she enough unmoored from Elena's light? One sweltering night, as thunder rumbled over the Sierra, Elena rallied, pulling Brianna to bed. "You're my son, even in eclipse." They made love then, tender, unhurried, bodies a map of scars and stars, reaffirming what words couldn't. Autumn brought harvest. Isabella's first birthday, a garden party in Isabel's groves, cousins from Córdoba toasting with Ribera del Duero. Brianna watched Elena laugh, unburdened, and knew the Pact's tempests had forged gold. Yet betrayal's final twist lurked. An immigration audit, triggered by Sophia's old whispers demanding reproof. The letter chilled like Mistral wind. Again. Elena despaired, pacing with babe on hip. Brianna's response was American grit, Spanish soul. They gathered evidence in earnest, family photos, therapy notes from joint sessions, where they'd unpacked the Pact's pains, even Isabella's vaccination card stamped with both names. The hearing in a sunlit Madrid office was anticlimax. The judge, a grandmotherly type with a soft spot for stories, nodded through their narrative. "Love proves itself," she ruled, stamping approval with finality. Outside, under plane trees shedding gold, Elena collapsed into Brianna's arms. "We're free." Winter wrapped them gentle, holidays a tapestry. Hanukkah lacks for Brianna's heritage, Noche Buena feasts with Isabel's kin. Isabella's first Christmas, fat-fingered around ornaments, drew tears, joy's quiet flood. New Year's they renewed vows privately on the balcony, Isabella between them, fireworks saluting their constellation. The story's arc bent toward humanism. Not flawless happy ever, but earned. Brianna turned down New York, negotiating remote with flair. Elena's campaign won grants, expanding to queer adoption rights. Isabella grew, a bridge of brown eyes and boundless curiosity, her laughter the Pact's true legacy. Years later, on Isabella's 10th birthday, groves heavy with fruit, guests spilling across the finca, Brianna pulled Elena aside, under the pergola where truths once spilled. "We swore temporary," she murmured, tracing her wife's jaw. Elena smiled, lines of laughter creasing her eyes. "Yet here we are, eternal." Isabella dashed by, dragging cousins to olive tag, oblivious to the miracle. Two women, once strangers in a bar, who chose each other through storms, birthing a family from paper and pain. In the end, love wasn't a visa or a vow, it was the standing steadfast, when the world demanded flight. And in Andalusia's embrace they stood.